Most people think that if their website looks premium, it will bring them better clients. With a more polished design, higher end visuals, the right clients will find them and start reaching out. And, maybe they can even charge higher prices. But after building over 150 websites for coaches and consultants, what I have found is that the websites that quietly lose clients are the ones that already look great. The design is clean, the branding is on point, but despite that, the website does not convert well. And that is because making a site look premium without getting the words right actually works against you. The visitor shows up and they're expecting a lot, but when the messaging doesn't match with what the design is promising, that gap is what makes the visitor leave. So in this video, I'm going to show you both halves of what makes a website actually convert. The design, which is the piece that most people are already talking about and working on, and the words, which is the part almost everybody skips. And honestly, it's the part that matters the most. By the end, you will know which one is costing you clients. So let's start with the half that everyone's already focused on, the design. Because it does matter, but the reason that it matters is not what most people think. Most advice about web design treats it like decoration. Make it look nicer, add better visuals, clean things up, have fancy animations. But the way that I think about it, every design decision is really a conversion decision. It's not just about making things look pretty and visually interesting. It's about fitting how people actually read and decide on websites. And the premium feeling is just coming along for the ride. Broadly speaking, there are 4 main design decisions that control whether your site feels premium or generic: your hero section, your fonts and colors, your images, and how the page is actually laid out. The part of your homepage someone sees before they even scroll, we call this your hero section, is the single most important section of real estate on your entire website. And it needs 3 things working together to really be effective. First, a headline that makes it really clear what you help people with, not your credentials or your years of experience. The headline should clearly highlight the end result that the visitor wants. They need to see their aspiration right there in the headline. Second, let's have a short bit of subtext that explains how you do it so that they have just a little bit more context on the service. And third, a call to action button that tells them exactly what to do next. The mistake I see a lot is that people put themselves at the center. The headline is something like, certified XYZ coach with 15 years of experience. And people just don't care about that yet. A person who lands on your site needs to feel like they are the hero of the story, not you. They're scanning for one thing. Does this person understand what I'm dealing with? And can they help me? You are actually their guide. You are not the main character of the story. A good test is whether a stranger could look at your hero section and tell what you do, who it's for, and what they're supposed to do next, all from that one section. If they can't, then the rest of the page almost doesn't matter, because most people aren't going to scroll past a confusing first impression and really study a page. Once your hero section is doing its job, the next thing the visitor notices before they've read a single word is how the page makes them feel. And that really comes down to the fonts and colors that you choose. Fonts and colors aren't about just picking something that looks nice or that you like. Your colors are communicating something the second the page loads. And most people don't think about what that message actually is. There's a reason that lawyers tend to use blue. It reads as trust. It reads stability. And the reason people in the therapy and healing space often lean towards green is because it is tied to growth and safety. These aren't just random choices. They're strategic. They're grounded in color psychology principles. And your fonts actually serve a similar purpose in communicating the tone of your brand. Something rounded like Poppins can feel very warm. It feels very approachable and casual. Something tall and angular like Fiala 1 feels bold. It feels high impact. They're the same words, but change the font and it communicates a very different feeling. Let me give you an example of this. I have a client, Rodriguez Musical Services. They are a high-end clarinet business. They sell professional instruments. They do expensive overhauls. They're actually really well known in the clarinet world as this boutique family shop that does really incredible work. But when they came to me, their hero section had this thin sans serif font set in all caps laid on top of a super busy photo of a workbench. It made their business feel like a cluttered repair shop, which it definitely was not. The text was also really hard to read against the photo behind it. We switched them to a confident, elegant serif headline on a very clean background with this deep maroon accent, which was actually already part of their color palette. They just weren't using it very effectively. It's the same business, but now the font is really doing a lot of heavy lifting here. It's reading premium and intentional. It better matches what they charge. And the thing is, the font wasn't just a style choice. Before the redesign, the font was actually undercutting their prices. They were kind of undercharging for what they do in comparison to their competition. And that was part of the reason why the site did not look like it belonged to this premium business. Now they can feel more confident raising their prices because the site actually reflects the quality of their work. So your fonts and colors set the tone, but there's another element that people often overlook, and that is your images. Most sites are full of stock photos that could belong to literally any business, two people shaking hands, a laptop on a desk. They fill space, but they're not really communicating anything. The sites that feel premium use images that tie in with the copy next to them. If it's a coach, their hero section should be a picture of them looking warm, looking approachable. That builds trust as the person running the business. If you have a how it works section with a step about booking a call, a lifestyle photo of you, maybe holding a coffee mug can subtly convey that that is going to be the vibe of the call. That is what I mean by a photo sending a message, not just being a space filler. Let me give you an example of how much images actually matter. I redesigned a site for a networking group here in Kansas City that I'm part of. Their old site led with this stock photo of a woman who was not even a member. It was just some stranger visually representing the group. And the whole value of this group is the people that are in it. But the very first thing that you saw on the page was telling the opposite story of that. So we had the group come together and took real professional photos of the members mid-conversation, actually connecting with each other. And now when you land on that page, you feel like you've already walked into the room and you've sat down with us. It's a completely different feeling because the photos are finally telling the truth about what the group actually is. So that's fonts, colors, and images, the elements most people think of when they think about design. But there's a fourth piece, and it's the one that almost nobody pays attention to: how the page is actually laid out. This is where I see the most damage on sites that already look good. The first part of layout is white space. And this isn't just giving things room to breathe. White space is actually very strategic. There are studies out there that show having more white space improves reading comprehension. It creates a more pleasant experience. It does slow reading speed down, which is why you see some of the really aggressive marketers like Alex Hormozy and Russell Brunson using these like super crammed sales pages with almost no white space. They are legitimately faster to read, but they're not as enjoyable, and the visitor doesn't actually comprehend as well what they are experiencing. White space also helps us to visually prioritize what matters to look at on a page. We just designed a sales page for a client who's hosting a conference where we wanted to bring a lot of focus to past conference testimonials. We put space around them. We used this gradient in the background to kind of guide the eye right to them. And that social proof stands out because the white space is telling you where to look. And white space isn't necessarily white in color, by the way. It's just empty space that creates a balanced layout. And that is why most website color palettes will often have off-white or a light gray in them. You might think it's useless, but it actually matters a lot because it helps to break up sections using different background colors. And white space connects directly to how much you're putting in one single section. If a block of text is too long, then people are just not going to read it. I won't read it. Past about 75 words in one chunk across the screen, eyes are going to glaze over. People are going to scroll right past that, which means the thing that you most wanted them to see is going to be the thing that they just skip right past. I had a client who was literally getting DMs from people in her audience saying, "Where do I contact you? Like, how do I sign up?" Think about that. If you are getting DMs from people asking how to buy from you, imagine how many people are just leaving your website without saying anything. That is what a cluttered, hard to read site can cost you. Premium websites give each idea room to breathe. Each section makes one clear point. And I think a lot about headings specifically because people scan a web page. They don't tend to read every word. So what I do when we write copy is I tend to go back and I only read the headings. And if the page doesn't make sense from just reading the headings alone, then I know it's not scannable enough and we need to keep tweaking the copy. The headings should anchor each section. They should carry the message even for people who are just skimming. If you're scrolling through a site that isn't well designed, it can feel relentless. Section after section, no empty space for your eye to rest. All the fonts are the same weight. It kind of just feels like it's shouting at you. It is exhausting. A premium site has a pulse to it. A heading, some body text or bullet points, a button. Then there's another section with a slightly different background color or a divider. It gives your eye a place to rest and it tells the story a lot more effectively. It's like reading a book without chapters. The book just goes on and on. Chapters exist for a reason. They wrap up an idea, they give your brain a place to rest, and they build anticipation for what's next. And the last piece of layout is navigation. On almost every consult I have, potential clients tell me that they want a website that is easy to navigate. They repeat that phrase over and over. They may not actually know what it means or how to achieve it. They just know that their current site does not feel easy to navigate. Most coaches and consultants and online business websites that I've looked at have too many menu items, and the labels are confusing because they're trying to be clever instead of being clear. What I typically do is I keep the menu to 4 or 5 items at most. If you have multiple services or programs, keep them under a drop-down that says services or work with me. If you have a team or you want to share your backstory, group that under the About dropdown. That way the items stay nested, organized, but still super easy to find. And let's talk labels for a minute because people do try to get cute with this. They'll want their blog to be called something like Learn because they think that it's different or it's clever. And I'm like, it is cute, but I would not say Learn, I would say blog. Or I would say articles if you want to be a little more professional, because that helps people know exactly what that menu item is going to do. Learn is vague and it could be a lot of things. And honestly, especially if you're just starting out, you probably don't need a ton of pages on your website. I see newer business owners create these 10-page sites when they're still even refining who they want to work with to begin with. And then their niche changes in 6 months and they have all this copy to rewrite. When you're starting out, I think a great one-page website actually can do everything that you need. It can allow you to schedule calls. It can allow people to get on your email list. It can communicate what you do. You can start really simply and then just add pages as your business matures and you need more content on your site. So that's the half that everyone focuses on: the hero section, your fonts and colors, the images, how the page is laid out. And all of that does matter. Do not get me wrong. But here's what I have learned after building 100+ of these things. You can get every one of those things right and the site can still leak clients, because there's another half that people skip almost entirely, and that is the words. And this is the part that actually decides whether someone reaches out to you or leaves your site. Here's the honest truth. Good design cannot carry bad copy. You can have the most beautifully designed site in the world and it'll still lose the sale if the words are vague, if someone lands on it and they can't quickly tell who you help and what you actually do. The design is what gets them to stay for a second. The words are what get them to stay for the next 30 seconds and actually decide to reach out to you. And I don't mean that the words need to be poetic or impressive. I just mean that they need to be specific. Let me show you what I mean. We built a website for a limo company. Their original headline was, "We have Kansas City covered," which is super generic. I mean, it tells you that they're in Kansas City. You could tell it was probably some kind of transportation company because they had an image of a limo on it, but it didn't say what they actually did, which was actually primarily luxury wedding transportation, limo services, and party buses. So we changed their headline to "Your transportation solution starts here," with Kansas City as a location descriptor underneath it in the subtext. We also redesigned the site, but the copy rewrite was a huge part of it. And here's what they said in their testimonial. This new website helped them feel confident enough to raise their rates over 30%, because the site finally reflected how their high-end customers actually perceive their service. That is what the right words do. They don't just describe the business, they give you permission to charge what you're actually worth. So being specific is step one, but there's a trap that catches even people who know what they offer, and that is trying to sound impressive instead of sound clear. People sit down to write their website and they try to be impressive. They reach for the witty headline. They try to sound like a brand, and it almost always makes things worse because a visitor doesn't want to decode you. They just want to know if you're for them. I have a client, Katie Pulsifer. Her old headline was, "Let's build that life you've been dreaming about." And it's cute. It sounds okay, but also literally every business wants to improve their customers' and clients' lives. So it's not actually that helpful. You land on that page and you can't really tell what she does or who she works with. We worked together on her messaging, built out her ideal client avatar, and that's what enabled her to write a headline that was so much more clear. Now, it's obvious who she works with and what she helps them with. It's the same business, but it has so much more clarity. The first one sounds like a brand, it's kind of generic. The second one makes the right person feel seen. And that is the difference between clever and clear. Clear over clever sounds simple, but I know that some of you might hear that and still wonder, where the heck do you start? So here's a practical takeaway for you. Before you write a single word of website copy, answer 3 questions. First, who is your ideal client? What is the most pressing problem that they are dealing with? And how are you helping them to solve it? If you've heard of StoryBrand, this is really the heart of it. I'm a certified StoryBrand guide, and it's the framework underneath literally every single thing that I build. But you don't need the StoryBrand certification to utilize these concepts for your own business. I'll show you what this looks like in practice. So I have a client, Erica J, who is a voiceover artist. Her ideal client is a marketing or communications professional who needs voiceover that can spark emotion and make their campaign's message actually land with their audience. The problem those clients deal with is that most voiceover artists sound generic, or they do not take direction very well, and they feel anxious about finding the right voice quickly because a lot of voiceover projects are same day or same week turnaround. What Erica does is she brings years of experience working with brands like Disney and MailChimp and Microsoft. Plus, she has a background as a project manager in marketing, so she understands both the creative side and the business side. When we built out that avatar together and put those 3 answers plainly on her homepage, the visitor sees their own problem on the page and thinks, okay, yeah, this person gets exactly what I'm dealing with. That recognition is what helps someone to trust you before you have even said a word about your credentials. And that is why my whole web design process starts with messaging before we do anything with design. Because if you don't have those 3 answers nailed down, there is nothing for the design to hold up. You're just decorating an empty house, basically. And I know what some of you are thinking. Can't I just ask AI for this? Just ask it to write your website copy and paste it in? And look, if you already know how to write website copy well, AI can absolutely help move you faster. But if you don't, what you get back typically is just going to sound like AI wrote it. And that, believe me, there are telltale signs. Too many em dashes, everything comes in groups of 3, random uses of the word actually. And there's a subtler one that AI actually loves giving agency to abstract pronouns. So like, this approach unlocks potential and things like that. Readers can sense it, even if they can't say exactly what makes it feel like AI. The copy just ends up feeling generic and vague and like it could belong to any business on earth. And that is the last thing that I want for you and your business. A beautiful site with vague copy is still going to lose the potential client. Someone is going to land on it. It looks great. Maybe they read it a little bit, but then the copy feels vague and they can't tell who it's for or what you do, and they leave. You spent all your effort on the half that everyone focuses on, and you skipped the half that really, really mattered to actually getting the client. And if you're sitting here and thinking, okay, the words on my site might just be the conversion problem, then I have a free mini course I created called the Coach Website Blueprint. It walks you through how to answer these 3 questions and write the copy for each page of your site, so it actually sounds like you and not like AI wrote it. It's linked below if you want it, or you can also get it at jennielakenan.com/blueprint. So that's what what a premium website actually is. It's not the most expensive looking website. It's the one where both halves, the design earns the visitor's read, but the words actually earn you the client. Most people pour their efforts into the half that they are already focused on, and then they skip the half that matters the most. And then they wonder why the site looks great, but it's not converting. If that sounds like you and you would rather not piece it together on your own, that is exactly the work that my team and I do. We build premium websites for coaches and consultants whose websites don't match how skilled they actually are. If you want us to build yours, then the link to apply is in the description. And if you want to see all of this applied to one real page, every design and copy decision, start to finish, I recently broke down a sales page that we built for my client, Jamie Berman, and walked through what made it convert launch after launch. So you can watch that video here.